Hello everyone, StrappedScientist here with a review of the Zero Tolerance 0561. This knife is a collaboration between Zero Tolerance, which is an excellent knife company in their own right, and Rick Hinderer, whose custom and even mid-tech production knives are very highly sought after and command a very high price on the secondary market. This is the 0561, which comes with a brown G10 scale. There's also a 0560, which is an identical knife but with black G10. And in the future, there will also be a versions of this knife with a tiger striped blade finish instead of this stone-washed finish that you see here. Now, the wonderful thing about this knife, in my opinion, is that what you get essentially is a cheaper production version of the XM18 that will cost you about half what you'd pay for an XM18 on the secondary market. You're probably paying at least $550 if you get lucky for a production XM18 when you can find one, whereas you can get one of these knives for about half that cost. And this knife actually does fall right between the 3.5-inch XM18 and the 4-inch XM24, both of which are extremely rare and highly sought after knives. Now, this knife is one of my personal favorites. It is probably the knife that you are most likely to find in my pocket on any given day. I will say, though, that if you're looking for a self-defense type knife, this wouldn't be my first choice. My first choice will always be something with a wave feature on it, like this excellent Emerson CQC15, because these come right out of your pocket open already, and it's just so much faster. But back to the knife at hand. This is an outstanding hard-use folding knife, and as we go through some of the features here, you'll really see that this knife was designed with that in mind. So as we mentioned just now, we have a 3.75-inch plain edge stone-washed L-Max steel blade. And L-Max is one of the top-of-the-line steels, really, of the modern super steels, and it really just keeps going and going, and it performs really well. When I first got this knife several months ago, I touched up the edge immediately on the ultrafine stone of a Spyderco Sharpmaker, and I've been using it regularly since then. Not especially hard use, but mostly packaging, a little bit of carving on wood just for fun, and I've seen really no degradation of the edge, which I don't think I can really get to show up on this camera. But this steel, it just keeps going and going, and it's really a great choice for long-term use. Now, also nice about this knife is that it is a titanium frame lock, which I think is just a fantastic locking mechanism, and the lockup is just really solid on this knife. There isn't even a hint of play in any direction. And the lock is solid, but it's not, it hasn't traveled over a lot as I've used it and flipped it a lot. You can see it's a bit less than 50% engaged, but it's really solid, and it's really not wearing over at all. Also, another feature on this lock bar that comes directly from Rick Hinderer's designs is this lock bar stabilizer here, which prevents you from overextending your lock bar when you close the knife. You can see it stops about there. You can't push it any further, so you're not going to damage the thinner portion of your lock bar right here that allows it to flex. This is a heavy knife, but they did take steps to try to reduce the weight. If you can see in here, the frame and the liner have been somewhat milled out. Not completely skeletonized, but they did mill them to try to cut down the weight a little bit. And it probably helps, but still, if you're looking for a lightweight knife, this might not be the choice for you. Moving on, the flipper on this knife is really, really nice, and it just rockets out of there. The smoothness of the action, I think, can partially be attributed to a ball bearing system that Zero Tolerance has put in this knife. It's called KVT, which I believe stands for Kershaw Velocity Technology, Kershaw being the parent company of Zero Tolerance. And it's similar to an IKBS, a ball bearing system, but it just flips so smoothly and so nicely. I did, when I first got this knife, have some trouble with the flipping because I was doing it wrong. I was trying to push downward to flip because I was used to, my previous flipper was this Kershaw Leak, which you press down and a spring pops the blade out for you. However, in this manual knife here, that downward push really accomplishes nothing. So what you actually need to do is pull it almost backward and up with your finger, and that will just pop the blade right out there. And also when you do that, it helps move your finger away from the jimping here, which if you hit your finger while you're flipping it, it hurts a little bit. It's not terrible, but it's something that I'd rather avoid than have constantly happen. Now, the jimping on this knife is okay in terms of how grippy it is. I mean, if you've got a bit of downward force on the jimping, you will lock your thumb in there, but it can slide. The nice thing, though, is that there is jimping in all the other places that matters, so it will really keep your hand in position. And on the topic of hand position, it really does fit the hand nicely in any grip that you can imagine. Just a really nicely designed knife. The pocket clip you can reposition 4 ways. This is where it came, and this is the way I tend to carry my knives, so I left it like that. And an additional ergonomic note, this knife is textured on both sides, both on the G10 and on the titanium, with kind of a almost fish scale type texture. And I think that having the texturing on both sides is actually kind of a step up from the XM18, which is smooth on the titanium side. And it's a little bit more slick, but this one gives you a bit better purchase on the knife. And all in all, I think this is a really great choice for a knife if you're looking for really an everyday usable hard use knife. There are a lot of choices out there for that kind of knife, but if this is in your budget, I highly recommend it, and it is definitely a knife that is deserving of at least your consideration. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.